in the end, the powers of the President of the United States will be reaffirmed, and the whole world will see clearly and unmistakably, and it's a message I want the world to hear today, that this country will protect its borders, it will protect its people, and it will ensure we have an immigration system that promotes wage growth, that promotes employment opportunities for our people, and that importantly, promotes compassion for working-class citizens who want to live in safe, secure, upwardly mobile communities.
Let me ask.
It would be highly unethical for me in the White House or anybody else to pick up the phone and call an ICE officer and say, well, when you encounter this particular felon, we'd like you to pretend the law doesn't exist. But I can tell you right now, there are enforcement actions happening all over this country in which gang members, drug dealers, sex offenders are being swept up.
Felons. What about if the only crime they committed was being here illegally? Is that enough to be deported?
Sean, an immigration judge makes those decisions. An ICE officer makes those decisions. I in the White House don't make those decisions.
So you've not told them to prioritize in either direction?
If people don't like the immigration laws of the United States, they can reform them. Our emphasis is on deporting and removing criminal aliens who pose a threat to public safety. And I just want to say this. There's been a lot of coverage in the news about the effects of these enforcement actions on people who are here illegally. And that's an issue people are free to discuss. But what's more important and what should be discussed more is the lives that are being saved, Chuck, the American lives that are being saved because we're taking enforcement action. And when we didn't take those actions in the past, you have families like the Wilkerson family and the Root family and the Mendoza family who lost people they loved because we were more concerned about the effects of enforcement on people here illegally than on the well-being of lawful immigrants and U.S. citizens.
So it sounds to me as if you're saying there is you did not tell ICE workers who to prioritize.
No, that's not correct. I'm saying that in the White House, it would be improper for me to tell them to disengage from an enforcement action. The President has been clear, unequivocal, and explicit in saying that we're going to focus on removing individuals who pose a threat to public safety, including people who are gang members, who've been charged with criminal offenses, who've been multiple immigration violations, who've been deported and re-entered. I have a question. What would you say, Chuck, what would you say to a family member who lost someone they loved because an illegal immigrant who'd been deported 2 times and had a misdemeanor conviction was allowed to come back into the country a 3rd time because that wasn't deemed a priority and they lost someone they loved? Would you say, well, I'm sorry, it didn't meet our priority scale. We're going to focus on public safety and saving American lives, and we will not apologize for that. We should have a program in which American workers are given jobs first. The President campaigned on this. It's an issue where the labor unions agree with us. It's an issue where many Democrat members of Congress agree with us. If you have an open job in this country, a U.S. citizen or existing legal permanent resident ought to have the ability to make the first application for that job. The problem is, in the way the media covers this issue, present company excluded, is they don't spend enough time talking about the well-being of the 300 million people here today, U.S. citizens and legal permanent residents, many of whom are living in poverty, many of whom haven't seen wage growth in 20, 30 years. And it's time we talked about them, their needs, their families, and their concerns. And yes, we'll have a lawful immigration system and will enrich and benefit our country. But the President has made clear he believes that should be a merit-based system, where individuals coming into the country bring the kinds of benefits economically that will grow our economy and help lift up wages for everybody.
But
the United States of America has a terrorism problem. We have had hundreds of cases of foreign nationals entering our country from other countries and plotting, attempting, or even carrying out terrorist attacks. We spend countless dollars a year, and we have thousands of federal officers and investigators who do nothing but run around the country trying to stop terrorist attacks for no other reason than because we made the mistake of letting people in who harbor hatred for this country. Our immigration system should not be a vehicle for admitting people who have anything but love in their hearts for this nation and its Constitution. George, it is a fact, and you will not deny it, that there are massive numbers of non-citizens in this country who are registered to vote. That is a scandal. We should stop the presses, and as a country, we should be aghast about the fact that you have people who have no right to vote in this country, registered to vote, canceling out the franchise of lawful citizens of this country. That's the story we should be talking about, and I'm prepared to go on any show, anywhere, anytime, and repeat it and say the President of the United States is correct 100%. 100%. The President of the United States, both under his Article II foreign powers and under the 1952 statute, has the power to control who enters our country, and you know and I know that no foreign national living in Yemen or any other country has a constitutional right to demand entry into our country.
If this was about the security of the country, why wasn't Afghanistan, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, I can keep going down the list, where we have had foreign nationals from those countries that I've listed attempt terrorist acts in this country?
Well, it's a great question. First of all, 72 individuals, according to the Center for Immigration Studies, have been implicated in terroristic activity in the United States who hail from those 7 nations. Point one. Point two, the security determination about those countries is based upon an assessment of the threat they present today and going into the future. The security situation in Libya, Yemen, Syria, and other countries designated are squarely different today than they were in, say, 2001 or 2005 or 2010.
Was in response to San Bernardino, where the spouse came from Saudi Arabia of Pakistan origin.
Well, you're 100%.
Well,
first of all, you're
100%
correct. You're 100% correct that the San Bernardino incident demonstrated the profound degree to which our immigration system is vulnerable to terrorism. And the FBI has information right now that would clearly indicate the extent to which massive numbers of court cases are happening and have happened all over our country relating to terrorist infiltration of our immigration system. But if you look at the executive order, what it spells out is a 90-day period to put in place extreme vetting across the board. So the first 7 countries are based upon our determination about the security conditions in those countries and their ability to cooperate with us. But there's a 30-day period where new security measures are promulgated and a 60-day compliance period. And Chuck, I will be glad to come back on your show when that's done and walk you through how we've kept our country safe across the board from individuals coming into our country who don't share our values and who don't love our people.
What's the White House reaction to that North Korean ballistic missile test? And is the White House going to put that regime on notice as you did with Iran?
Last night, what you saw was the President of the United States sending a powerful and unmistakable signal to North Korea and to the entire world as he stood shoulder to shoulder with the Prime Minister of Japan and declared our steadfast and unwavering support for that alliance. And the meaning of that symbolism will be lost on no one.
That the federal judiciary retains the authority to adjudicate constitutional challenges to executive action. Stephen, the 3 judges say you're flat wrong.
No, the 3 judges made a broad, overreaching statement about the ability to check the executive power and did not even address what I was talking about, which was INA 212F, 8 U.S.C. 1182F, the power of the president to exclude aliens in the national interest.
But they say that the courts have a long history of reviewability here.
No, the Ninth Circuit has a long history of being overturned, and the Ninth Circuit has a long history of overreaching. We don't have judicial supremacy in this country. We have 3 co-equal branches of government. The Ninth Circuit cannot confer onto a Yemeni national living in Yemen with no status in our country a constitutional right to enter our country. Were such a right to exist, Chris, that would mean every time we deny a visa to a foreign national, they could sue in an American court for damages for lost benefits in terms of welfare and employment. That would be ludicrous. 80 million people visit this country every year through airports, land ports, and seaports. Of course the president has the authority to impose moderate, necessary, and sensible restrictions, including putting in place new vetting procedures to protect this country. That power was delegated to him explicitly by Congress and adheres to him under his Article II powers under the U.S. Constitution. This is a judicial usurpation of power. It is a violation of judges' proper role in litigating disputes. We will fight it, and we will make sure that we take actions to keep from happening in the future what's happened in the past. We've had hundreds of individuals enter this country through our immigration system on visas who've gone on to do enormous harm to this country from 9/11 through San Bernardino, through the Boston bombing, in Chattanooga, and on and on and on it goes.
Trump tweeted this. I want to put it on the screen. Just cannot believe a judge would put our country in such peril. If something happens, blame him and court system. People pouring in. Bad. But now, Stephen, that judge is getting death threats. So the question is, if something happens to him, should we blame President Trump?
This is one of the most ludicrous things that the media does, where when any crazy person in this country issues a death threat, that they then blame a politician or a public official. That is reckless and irresponsible and should never be done. The reality is
but
that
some people would say that personally attacking a judge is reckless and irresponsible. In fact, your own Supreme Court nominee, Judge Gorsuch, called it disheartening and demoralizing.
Statements that you can't criticize a judge demonstrate a profound misunderstanding of what it means to have separate and equal branches. Of course, one branch can criticize another branch of government. It's ludicrous to say that Congress can criticize the president, and the president can criticize Congress, and judges can criticize the president, but the president can't criticize judges.
So Neil Gorsuch was wrong?
I have my opinions, and Judge Gorsuch has had his comments, as you know, misinterpreted and misrepresented by by Senator Blumenthal, who, as we all know, has profound credibility issues.
Well, wait. On the question, first of all, on the question of his saying that he found these remarks disheartening and demoralizing, it wasn't.
That's different than saying.
Wait a minute.
That's different than saying you can't criticize a judge.
Stephen,
I don't think that Judge Gorsuch would say you can't criticize a judge in the United States.
But he said that these comments were disheartening, demoralizing. He said it not only to Richard Blumenthal, he said it to Senator Ben Sasse, as a Republican.
That is not what Kelly Ayotte put out a statement. That's not what she said he said. You weren't in the room. I wasn't in the room. What we do know is that Senator Blumenthal, we all know his Vietnam scandal. We know how much he has a credibility problem. It's a serious problem. That's what should be the focus of this conversation, is the degree to which that senator has a serious credibility issue. Our position is that we are the ally of millions of hardworking, forgotten men and women all across this country, and President Trump is their champion. That's our coalition. Our coalition is millions and millions and millions of decent, patriotic citizens who just want a pay raise, who just want a good school, who just want a safe community. And Donald Trump will never apologize for looking out for their interests and being their champion.
But does he need to insult John McCain in the process?
He needs to protect the integrity and protect the honor and decency of our armed services. Chief Special Operator William Ryan Owens did not die for a failure. He died as a hero. He died in defense of his country. He died in defense of our values in a successful mission that yielded valuable intelligence. The bottom line, Chris, is that the President of the United States won 306 electoral votes by being a champion for people who haven't had a voice in Washington. Democrats, Republicans, independents, people of all incomes and races, and he will continue to be their champion, and he will continue to be their voice.